Origi!
Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Way podcast. After a torrid day at Anfield when the Reds' perfect start to the season ended with a 1-0 defeat by Nottingham Forest, Liverpool toiled in attack and barely threatened the visitors' goal before or after Callum Hudson-Odoi's second half sucker punch. It was a day where too many individuals struggled against a team that was far more defensively savvy than the clown show at Old Trafford a couple of weeks ago. For Arne Slot, the honeymoon is officially over. I'm Chris Smith and I'm joined by Julian Richards and Dave Usher, the editor at liverpoolway.co.uk. All three of us were at a particularly sunny Anfield today. Dave, talk about a come down. I thought that was dismal. What did you make of it?
I'm honestly struggling to remember when we played worse at Anfield. Like, obviously my memory's shite, but I think you've got to go back a good few years. For just the second half, particularly. The first half was just, it was all right. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It was just, we've seen loads of first halves like that, and then usually we step it up in the second half and get the point. But today, no, it was just really, really bad, and a little bit. I think you've got to be a bit worried because. Not because we lost, because you can lose games, and there's ways to lose games which make you think, you know what, it's football. Sometimes that happens. It's fine. Just move on. We miss chances, silly mistakes, whatever. There's things like that can cause you to lose a game. That wasn't that today. That was just like Forest had a game plan, and they executed it absolutely perfectly. Everything went exactly the way they planned it. So they leave out like the two star players, if you like. Well, Gibbs White's probably the best player, but apart from Gibbs White, the players you'd be concerned about, Hudson-Odoi and Alanga, he left both of them on the bench with the sole intention of just keeping this game tight until it gets a bit stretched and then bring them on. And he did it after an hour. He put the two of them on, and from the moment they came on, totally different game. Forest offered no threat at all. They weren't getting in behind at all. There was no counter-attacking threat. The second those two came on, it totally changed. Suddenly they were a danger, and they scored not long after. But it was the most worrying thing really was just the sheer panic in our team. We looked clueless. Nobody had any idea what they were doing, including the manager, because the substitutions, specifically taking off Kanate, I mean, to me, that just smacked of absolute desperation. It's something you do with 5 minutes left. So we went with three at the back, and bear in mind the two players either side of Virgil, Conor Bradley and Costas, who were both wanting to go forward. Mm-hmm. And that change, it stifled both of them. It affected everybody else because the shape of the team just went to shit. Players didn't know who they were supposed to be passing to, where they were supposed to be running. It was like the whole thing was just a gigantic mess, and the crowd was fucking terrible as well. Mm-hmm. Just for getting on the backs of the players and like shitting themselves and panicking.
Really early too.
Really early, yeah. And I may as well get that out the way now because it's something that, like I was saying to John during the game, is like there was one particular moment, someone, probably Dom, because it was mostly Dom all day, just giving the ball away. It was probably Dom, played a bad pass, and the reaction of the crowd was like, it was horrific. And this is like, I think it was still 0-0 at the time. I don't even think we were getting beat. It was like there was loads of time left when this happened. And I just said to John, I was like, I looked down at the touchline, and like Slot's obviously just stood there watching the game. There's nothing he can do about that. He can't turn around and start like having to go at the crowd. He's not been here long enough. He hasn't got the gravitas to do anything like that. But he must have been thinking, fucking hell, this is not what I signed up for, it's not what I've been told about. But all I could think when that happened was Klopp would have just been off that bench, fucking screaming at the cop, screaming at the main stand. And sometimes he done it, and I'm like, you know what, just fucking, you do your thing, we'll do ours. Because sometimes he was overreacting to stuff, other times it was completely justified. But the point is, he kept everyone in check. Then you've got, like, it gets to 85 minutes and someone gives the ball away, there's a stoppage, and there was a fucking mass exodus. Yeah. And again, I'm looking around and thinking, is this how it's going to be now? So Klopp's gone, there's nobody keeping you in line, so you're just going to go back to like the way it was before. And that's what it started to feel like to me. But that's like a different issue to what was going on with the team. It doesn't help, But I'm not blaming that on why the performance was the way it was. There was a lot of things went into that, like, because very little went right. The only player who I'm prepared to give like a free pass to today is Gravenberch. I thought he was fine. He wasn't brilliant, but he was fine. He was like a solid 7 out of 10, and I thought everyone else was like below that. It was a terrible day. Tactically, we look clueless. I think the players were leggy. We'll get onto that later as well, like about rotation, not rotation, all of that stuff. There's things I want to say about that. The atmosphere was fine in the first half. I thought like it was okay. It was way louder than it was against Brentford. So I thought, okay, this is not bad. It's like a bit of noise. We're getting a little bit of momentum here. And then as soon as like it started to go wrong in the second half, the crowd was terrible. The players just totally lost the plot. Didn't know what they were doing. Like, confidence went, decision making just went to pot. You had players who you never see doing these things. Mo, for example, the amount of times Mo just plays a blind pass across the box straight to a Forest player. He never does that. Never ever does that. And he did it 2 or 3 times today. So when your best player's doing stuff like that, what hope is there for the rest of them? It was just a terrible performance in the second half, from like players, crowd, manager.
Jules, we exchanged a few texts on the way home, and we were kind of saying that this felt oddly reminiscent of the time before Klopp. We had the big result against Manchester United, and then we go and shit the bed the next week. There were a lot of things about today that sort of made you perhaps think that we're going to have to work really hard to keep these good days going. To put it kindly.
Yeah, I think you have to just accept that the Klopp era was very special. I think we all knew at the time when we were in it, it was a special era. We didn't take it for granted. But I think any thought that maybe we could ease ourselves out of it and the transition would be okay. I think that there's more of a chance it's going to be way more bumpier than we'd like it to be than smooth. And today just sort of, you could have picked this performance today from any Liverpool performance from 1992 up until 2017, I'd say. Because the first couple of months of Klopp, when he was getting stuff sorted, we were still losing to like bums for no reason. And then after that, with the odd exception in COVID and stuff, there's always been like a very confidence of going to Anfield, like you're going to, we just didn't lose at Anfield. We've got used to not losing at Anfield, and maybe this is why the atmosphere and the way it is at the moment is all feeding into it, and there's no Klopp on the sideline to keep people in check. But yeah, you could have drawn this one from anything, from the Souness, the Evans, Houllier, Benitez, Kenny, Rogers. It could have come from any of them. The one I think that everyone stands out, that everyone remembers from the 90s, is beating Newcastle 4-3 and then losing to, was it Coventry the week after? Like, that's the sort of 97. Archetypal. Yeah, that's the we're going to push on, and actually no, we're not. We're just going to just revert to type. And I think the scariest thing today was that, as Dave said, everyone just looked a bit clueless. It was very ponderous. It was very slow. And then I thought in the first half, we were slinging in a few decent crosses. Jota almost got on the end of one. It was causing them a little bit of trouble. And then so the second half, we just played really, really, really narrow. And it was like Forest were very happy to cede the wide areas to us. And rather than going, all right, then we'll work out there and we'll try and drag you out, and we'll try and, we'll just, we've got Nunez on, maybe we'll sling some crosses in. We were just trying to thread it through the eye of a needle through the middle all the time. And I just didn't, and that obviously bogs down the play even more. And I just didn't understand. I didn't understand what we were trying to do for large parts of it. And I don't know whether, again, the general confusion of that plays into how the crowd was reacting and feeling. But the other thing is, I heard a few people on the way out say, oh, well, it always happens after international break. And I sort of go, well, Nottingham Forest had the international break too. Everyone's had the international break. You can't use the international break as a excuse for this, when all the other teams in the Premier League have just been under the same circumstances.
Right.
It's not the same circumstances. I'm not I'm not saying it's like it's a valid
It
excuse,
is. Like
but
your players go. I'm sounding like Roy Keane. It is. Like your players go all over the world. It doesn't matter like how your
more
squad is
our players
composed.
do. Forest
Yeah.
didn't have that many players away. You know what? We had like Slot got asked in his press conference about it. We had twice as many players who played both games than anybody else. Man City were the next one.
So the only thing I'd say to that is, okay, but our squad is also meant to be vastly superior to,
That's a
say,
different issue, though.
Forest.
Which, yeah, we should be
Well, yeah,
making changes.
you can go into the rotation thing if you want, but like the five substitutes that came on, I can't remember five substitutes collectively being so ineffective. They did next to nothing, and people will single out certain players in there and go shite, like Nunez, because obviously, but they were all just complete. It was just a completely. You might as well have just thrown out some training cones out there, and they may have done the same thing. It was completely ineffective. It was. I can't say it was dispiriting because I didn't feel like the first three games were going to be a true reflection on what Slot's Liverpool were going to be because it's only three games. We don't know what Slot's Liverpool is going to be. Um, but I sure as shit can't be going back to the win one week, lose the other sort of stuff because that's really, really tiresome. And I've had 8 years of eating very well with Klopp. I'm not prepared to go back to just like, you know, eating a pot noodle every 3 days instead. Like this is not what I want to be watching. So
Mm.
I don't know how he sorts it out, but he sure as shit better sort it out because the crowd, whether it'll be a product of like shortly after the good years of the 80s where the crowd and the cop going and the crowd was a bit as well. Maybe this is just the sort of next evolution of that as well. We've had 8 good years. We've had a manager who's really been into getting the crowd involved, and everyone laughed at that West Brom game, but like that was the catalyst. That he knew exactly what he was doing there. And now maybe this is just the people will sit there and expect thing, which happens to a lot of teams after they've had a good period. They go into a fallow period. The fans are like, "Well, entertain us, do something." And if you don't, we're going to kick off.
Yeah,
No one will ever boo them like they do in some. That's not a Liverpool crowd's way. There'll be no booing or anything like that. But like I noticed people were leaving on like the 83rd minute. And to be fair,
Hmm.
if they thought, this is we're never scoring you, they were right. So I'm never going to criticize anybody for wanting to leave early because it's a nightmare getting away from Anfield. And if you don't get away, you can be stuck, as Dave will tell you, you can get stuck in a car park for 45 minutes before you even move. And we've all got things to be doing. And if you get beat, you've just got beat, it's even worse. So I'm not going to have a pop at anybody for leaving. That's like Klopp said after the Palace game when he said he'd never felt so alone when everybody left early. And he said, but I think he said it's up to us to make people stay. It's up to them to make people stay. But like panicking and misplacing easy passes and just generally not being able to find a team out with any ball is not going to help that long term. Just a thoroughly depressing afternoon.
It's a culmination of things, though, I think, isn't it? Like, it's not only what we've lost, it's that what we've replaced it with is a different kind of personality that's not going to be trying to involve the crowd and getting them into it. And it's all kind of very much after the Lord Mayor show. It for me today, walking into
You mean
Anfield
it's
for
like
the last.
I'll tell you what it's like, Chris. It's like The Hobbit after they made the Lord of the Rings. You got to make that film first. You can't make it after you've made Lord of the Rings because we've all seen the good stuff now. The
All
Hobbit's
right.
now just like you're like you got the Lord of the Rings. Got to throw a ring. Got to go all the way into Mordor. Got to throw her into the big volcano. Got to throw into Mount Doom. Got to dodge all the orcs on the plains outside of it. It's like this is epic shit. You go fucking, oh, that is epic shit. And then you get to the Hobbit, so yeah, gotta just get a dragon out of a mountain. It's like, all right, okay, yeah, it's not
after
as
watching
exciting.
45 minutes of like the dwarf spinning plates in fucking Bilbo's house.
I
That's
I
what
was
That was
more
the
annoyed
second
by
half
the
45 minutes
today.
barrels.
felt like today.
Yeah,
Fucking hell.
except
I
the
I
plates
was
are
more
getting
annoyed by like
smashed everywhere.
the the barrels in the wall in the river, and then like Orlando Bloom turning up just because let's put a familiar face in. It's like of all the familiar faces, you picked him. but you get
And they
like no
turned
one
him
wants
heel
to,
pretty much as well, didn't they? Like
yeah, but
Legolas was a fucking dickhead in those Hobbit movies. Just like a little jealous boy, wasn't he? Little jealous daddy's
yeah.
boy. Anyway, but the
We
spinning plates,
digress.
the spinning plates in Bag End is kind of like part of my point, and the Hobbit thing as well goes along with that because every week we've walked into Anfield for the last 8 years, so the stakes have really felt high. You felt like something was on the line. I don't think that necessarily is translated yet. It can't yet because it's just different for starters. But I also don't think that the casual nature of the football that we started the game with today was really, really helpful either. Like there's so much for having. It's so much to say to have control, but sometimes more control is going to be having a complete inability to break down these stubborn, like belligerent, defensively well organized teams who aren't going to present the ball to you 25 yards out in a 5-on-2 situation. You know, it's like what you lose with this more controlled, calm, risk-averse style that we sort of saw today quite a few times is that it's not going to be as easy to break people down. It's not as exciting to watch. The amount of times today during the first half, and I know the first half was something that we struggled with a little bit last season. We all said the tempo wasn't right in the first half. We all said, you know, there was nobody really setting the tone for us. But that was the case today. And the amount of time, I don't think Trent had any worse a game than anybody else, but the way he saunters around the fucking pitch to take a throw in or to take a corner, like he takes minutes of the way it got it. Once we conceded, it kind of changed a bit. But in the first half, anybody ever thought Nuno Espirito Santo has said to Trent, waste as much time as you can in this first half. He sauntered around the pitch like he was actually trying to. Like he was an opposition player wasting time. It took fucking ages over absolutely everything he did. And I don't think that helps either. It's fucking boring. Like, come on, get the fuck on with it. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, I think the throw-ins were a big problem, and initially I was just putting that down to the fact that the movement just was awful. He had no one to throw it to, but I'd have to watch it again because it may well have just been he's taking too long over it and sauntering about, as you say. So yeah, I don't know. I'd have to watch that again, but it's an interesting point.
Were you okay with how we approached the game today? I mean, obviously, what we tried to do didn't work out, but in terms of just the question stands: were you okay with how we approached the game today?
Oh,
Jesus Christ!
Sorry.
A bit of warning.
The lack of real.
That was like the fucking Operation Anfield announcement today. I proper was getting pissed off with that, you know. I was like the fucking grumpy old man in the stands going, oh, it's too loud, what are you doing? Like, George isn't that loud, what are you doing? You're turning the volume up, what are you doing?
I think they've turned George down.
Yeah,
they have definitely.
He called him Notts Forest as well.
Nice. You can subscribe to the Liverpool Way podcast on all the major platforms, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon or Podbean. Just search for the Liverpool Way, leave us a review and hit subscribe to automatically receive all new episodes. You can also head to liverpoolway.co.uk and grab a TLW season ticket for just £3 a month. There's tons of exclusive content, including match reports from every Liverpool game, weekly Premier League roundups, the TLW diary, and access to the members-only forum. Lastly, you can follow us on social media at The Liverpool Way on Twitter and at The Liverpool Way TLW on Instagram and Facebook.
In terms of the approach, I suppose, tactically, I think we just tried to do how we've started the other game, so I didn't notice anything that I was particularly unhappy with. I wasn't thrilled with it. This is going to sound like weird, but I mean, I said this to you before the game. The unchanged team, I wasn't thrilled about that, and not just because my boy wasn't playing, although it kind of is that, but it's not because he's my boy, it's because he's been training all week, he's not been away. So I feel like just playing the same team just to keep an unchanged team because they've been doing well, that's all well and good, but like 7 of them, I think it was, I played like 2 games for the countries during the break, and it's too much. It's like there's no way that I know we can't keep going back to what Klopp would do, but it's a fact. Klopp would not have put out that team today with like everyone who'd played in the internationals. He would have used some of the fresher players, and there's a reason why you do that. But there was a red flag for me when Slot's press conference on Friday when he was asked about rotation, and he didn't say it in so many words, but the gist of it was basically, no, I'm just going to put my first 11 out as much as I can, and I'll change when I actually really have to. And he's like, I did that at Feyenoord. I'm like, yeah, well, no. And he did say, I know it's a different league, more intense and all that, but you can play like the team who's like 15th or 16th in like the Dutch league, and if you're Feyenoord or PSV, you kind of know this is going to be a pretty comfortable, easy game. But like the team who's going to be like 15th, 16th, whatever in the Premier League is going to be a Forest or a Bournemouth or a Wolves. Teams who, like, if you're not at it, they will hurt you. So it's not that straightforward. Just, oh yeah, that's my best team, I'm just going to put them out. There's got to be rotation. Whether it was, he's probably got it in his head that he was going to rotate on Tuesday against Milan, but after the international break with like players who've got like a lot of mileage in the legs, the likes of Trent, I thought like the last 15-20 minutes, I thought Trent just looked so fucking leggy today. But going back to how we started the game, yeah, I thought it was just a typical first half. Even under Klopp, I felt like we had like a lot of those first halves where we were doing okay, some nice moves, not as much as we would have liked, but we put a few decent moves together. Diaz hits the post. So the first half wasn't that bad. You would have liked it to have been better. I would have liked more chances created, a bit more intensity maybe. But it's difficult, like against a team like Forest. You talk about intensity, but you can't press a team that doesn't want the ball. So like they're not stupid. They know we're not going to. There's some coaches in this league who, and I'll name the Southampton fella for a start. He's like the most obvious one. And you could go back last year, Vincent Kompany. Like, just the arrogance of these coaches. They're going to do it their way, regardless of like the fact they haven't got the players to do it. So they're going to try and play out through the back, which allows you to go and press them. So if you're playing Southampton, you can press them. They're going to keep doing what they do, and you're going to catch them eventually. Now, Nuno's not like that. He's pretty dour and dull and boring. I don't feel like he's not someone who you'd want to play for. He's very uninspiring. Nice fella, but uninspiring, and his team sort of reflects that. But he's organised, he's defensive, and he's not gonna do stupid things at the back. He's not going to be like, okay, we're going to just flex our muscles here and show we can go toe to toe with Liverpool. No, he's going to go.
Did you notice?
Don't play out from the back because they're going to press us. So we'll just hit it long to the big man up front.
Did you notice what they did today in terms of the keeper having it, and then they would make one pass and then immediately hoof it?
Yeah,
like it was almost like, why even bother doing that in the first place? I mean, they must, I guess, draw Jota onto a little bit, but one pass and then boom.
Draw us forward a little bit to then hit again. Chris Wood, and then hope that he can get a knockdown for someone, and then maybe they can build from there. But where it was all falling down for them was they had no pace out wide because he'd left the two quick, skillful wingers on the bench. But that was part of the plan. That was like, keep this game tight, and then we'll hit them when it goes like a little bit end to end later on when the space opens up. So we needed to get on top in the first half and get a goal or two, and we didn't. And the longer it went like that, it played right into their hands. And fair play to them, he's got his tactics completely spot on. They were largely untroubled. The keepers had very, very little to do. They've had the better chances in the game. I mean, I seen Alisson saying afterwards, like, we deserve to win or something. No, we didn't.
Yeah, no.
We deserved to lose that game, and we were lucky we only lost 1-0. They had the better chances. Now, a couple of those may have been offside, I don't know. The flag's not gone up, and they may or may not have been pulled back. But as of what we know, it wasn't offside, and Alisson's had to make like a really good save. They've had another one that's gone over the bar. In the first half, Gibbs White put one wide. I think the flag did go up then. But they looked like they had a threat, and we were just laboured and just weren't really doing much. It was all like huff and puff and just like going nowhere, really. But I don't know if that was so much like the approach. I just think he got out coached. I just think like it's so far everyone's been praising Slot's coach, and we've seen all like the tactical videos that have been done about like the genius of like how he did this, how he did that. Well, you know, is our guy from 442 going to do one this week about like how Nuno outcoached Slot? Because I would be interested to see that. To see, I know what I've seen with my own eyes, but I'd like to see a more educated view of it. To see if I'm way off, or if the things that I saw are actually that's part of it, because it just felt like he got out coached, and it also felt like we got out fought to a certain extent. Slot likes to talk a lot about duels, winning duels, and I don't think we won enough duels. I think like we got out fought in certain areas of the pitch, which again could come down to a little bit of fatigue, tiredness. You know, you see Maka can't play the full game because he's travelled halfway around the world. He got an injury when he was with Argentina. Diaz gets brought off as well. Would it not have made more sense to have them on the bench to bring on? You know, start the players who were fresher and then bring them on if you need to, rather than the game's already going to shit and then you're bringing players on who've not had many minutes lately. You know, Curtis has been out a while, Darwin's hardly played, and you're bringing that Gakpo's like not played too much for us. I know he's played for Holland. But you got like players coming on. It's like it would be better to start them and let them play the way into the game, and then if it's not working out, then you bring like the starters on, if you like. So I just felt like he got that wrong, and it sort of reinforced a little bit of a concern I had based on what he said on Friday about he's not going to rotate much. I'm like, well, we're used to Klopp making 5 or 6 changes from midweek to weekend, and I feel like Klopp got that balance really good. I think that was a big strength, was how he was able to rotate and we were still getting performances.
Yeah,
that's something that we need to see. You know, is Slot going to be able to do that? Because when he's playing 1 game a week, as he has been doing, that was going fine, and then we had an international break, which is disrupted things to some extent. And I know everyone's got to deal with the international break, but it's a fact that more of our players played more minutes than anybody else in the Premier League, certainly more than Forest. So that comes into it. It doesn't explain what we've seen, but it's definitely like a part of it. But it's something
especially
that we
when
need
it's
to deal with.
mitigatable. You know, it's something that we can mitigate because of the size of the squad.
Exactly.
And, and for me, not having Chiesa on the bench today was a bit of a worry for me as well, because first of all, I want, from a personal point of view, I wanted to see him, but second of all, you just want him involved, don't you? You want to get him involved. You want to have him in on the bench, feeling like he's part of things. Like, and I think when we went 1-0 down today, he would have been good to bring on because it would have given everybody a bit of a lift.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not really sure what the rationale behind not having on the bench was when you're playing Nottingham Forest at home and you have Bradley, basically a whole new back four. What's the fucking point? Like, Gomez can do Quansah and Costas' job. You could have Gomez and not have the other two, or you could have one of the other two and just put Chiesa on. Like, what?
Especially because the player who dropped out was Harvey. Harvey's injured, so you've lost an attacking player and you've replaced that attacking player on the bench with a defensive player. So, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either, but we don't really know what he's looked like in training. Maybe he needs another couple of weeks, because he didn't have a pre-season, didn't play any. He had a pre-season in terms of he was training to keep his fitness up, but he didn't play any games, so he hadn't played since like the Euros. So maybe they've just looked at it and thought, he's not quite ready, even to come on for 15 minutes or whatever. There's no point rushing him if he's not sharp. But we don't know that. I mean, it does seem strange. And yeah, I'd imagine he'll be involved on Tuesday because it's familiar surroundings. He's used to playing against Milan in the San Siro and that. So, I'd be very surprised if he's not involved on Tuesday night. Not necessarily starting the game, but he's got to get on at some point, you'd think.
Jules, we were talking about being outcoached and the quality of Slot's coaching so far in terms of the praise that he's received from the wider audience. It always is a bit worrying to me and a little bit concerning when a coach goes on TV and talks ad nauseum about how he did it how he beat the team that he just beat. It always feels a little bit self-congratulatory to me. I would prefer counsel to be kept a little closer on that kind of thing. We basically gave Forest a blueprint on what not to do. I mean, of course, they would have had a pretty good idea themselves watching that game. But was there something today, do you think, about that, that chutzpah from the other week bit us in the ass a little bit?
No, I don't. I don't think so. Most modern coaches are like that now. They like to blow their own trumpet. They like to big up themselves and all that kind of stuff. I just think this was again. It's been a classic case of here's a team that doesn't really want to attack, that just wants to defend, and it's going to say break us down and get past us. And for how many times have we seen it down the
Yeah.
years? Like it happens, and then you'd sign a player and you'd go, going back to like Smeater or Kewell or whoever, going like, oh, these will unlock the defense, these compact defenses. And the thing is, you don't need threading it through the eye of a needle players. You need aggression and speed to beat these things. You need to pull them apart by switching the ball quickly, moving quickly, and then like getting stuck in and like winning the ball. Now, we could talk a little bit about the referee if you want, who I didn't think was great today. I thought he was way too busy. It was it all of Michael Oliver.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just way too involved in the game. Like, didn't let enough go. Was pulling it back when Forest players were hitting the deck. And I know, like football players, they cheat. I'm fully aware of that. I've spoken about it before. But I do feel like there was like he was just getting in the way of the game. At some points, like there's a game going on here, mate. Do you want to just stand out the way so it can actually happen? But no, I'll just blow up and we'll give a foul here and a foul there. And I guess I know that's like Nuno's blueprint as well. I do understand that. But again, he should know that that's how one team is going to play, and maybe just think, well, hang on a second.
Yeah.
I know these are going to be looking for it a bit more, so I have to be extra keen. But he didn't seem to be extra keen. He just seemed to be like, yeah, you fell over. That's okay. That's a foul. And it's just that sort of play for behavior from them, the referee, and then the usual sort of we couldn't be aggressive because every time we were going near them, they were falling over. But I don't think we were particularly aggressive either. So I can't even say that like, well, we were aggressive at least, and that's why they were falling over. We were, so they were falling over and winning fouls, and we weren't even getting anything for it. Like we weren't even sticking a foot in or like actually making it difficult for them, which is really frustrating. Because if a team is going to shithouse their way through a game and play for it, at least like make them know that they've had to do it because there's no other way. So again, I just feel like it's just the usual stuff that you've seen over the years. You can't, if you've got 11 or 10 players in front of you and they're packed into that 18-yard box and in front of it up to about the last third of the pitch, their third, and they aren't moving, then going through them isn't going to work. It never works. You have to go. It's
Go
like
round
John
the
Barnes
back.
said, right? You got to go
Yeah.
round the back.
Exactly.
You got to go round the back. You've got to go. You've got to go from side to side. You got to go east west. Sometimes don't go like you can't go north south because there's no room. So go east west and go with speed and movement. And there wasn't any of that. There was no sort of speed of thought, physicality and speed, nothing. And it felt like someone had made porridge with not enough milk. So it's just very, very stodgy, very, very stodgy. And again, you can say like that, like I would say it doesn't always sit right with you when you're in and you've only had a few games and you're sort of going like, yeah, this is why we do this, and you can't help the YouTube nerds doing all that shit or whatever. That's just what they do. So picking apart, putting compilations together of like Alexis McAllister's game against Brentford or what have you. You can't stop them doing that. But you as the manager maybe should show a slight bit more introspection and when you're being interviewed. But as I said at the start, they don't generally do that anymore. Managers, they sort of like, yeah, I did that. And Slot, and like it's a very Dutch thing, right? Slot's very, he is Dutch, and he is very Dutch in some things. Like even today, talking about Forest, like paraphrasing, he basically said, "Yeah, these are shit. They're never in the bottom half. We shouldn't lose to them." Now there are ways of saying it, but there's the Dutch blunt way, which is what he seemed to be, which Same with we had the
He
big
said
debate
it
about
about Brentford and Ipswich as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
Same
these
sort
are
of
all
thing.
shit. These are all shit. So this is great. We should be beating them. And it's
Yeah.
like with Kwanzaa, right? Like, yeah, I took him off because he was shit. Again, we're paraphrasing you, but that sort of bluntness is it's only endearing up to a point, right? And it's only going to be,
When you're
you
winning.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. But also, there is a limit to where you can go with it, right? It's not a Harry Enfield sketch with him and Paul Whitehouse sit in a police car and like say this, they're two policemen, two Dutch policemen, all that sort of stuff. That's all
Ronald,
sitcom.
he's my lover.
Yeah. Your British boys are coming over and causing lots of trouble. So we're giving them lots of hard sex and soft drugs to calm them down. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's that's like that's the sort of it's funny, but also that sort of it is a sort of Dutch trait, especially in managers, like they are very very like sort of blunt and like no nonsense. And so yeah, when you lose, you start to pick at everything, because when you lose, you always pick at things. 2 weeks ago, the pod was just like, there were a couple of nitpicks, but beat the Manx 3-0. Everything's great. Then you lose, and suddenly go, oh no, everything's terrible. We all live and die by the last result. Um, so I don't think, no, in answer to the question, I don't think it has anything to do with Slot saying how great he is, or that kind of stuff, or talking about his tactical tweaks that enabled us to win the game. I just think this was just as usual. This just wasn't fast enough, wasn't aggressive enough to break down a team that came to do exactly what they did. And as Dave said, that I would say that classes as you were just outcoached by Nuno Espirito, because that's the only thing we can look at, right? He outcoached you.
Yeah.
He knew what he wanted to do. He set his team up to do it. He'd have been happy with a draw. Motherfucker was probably coming for a draw, but he brought his speed merchants on, and not only did they got the goal. So there's like, well, we've got money, we've got credit in the bank, we're a goal ahead, but no, we actually couldn't do anything. So they Forest haven't won at Anfield since 1969. They were good for periods like in the 70s and early 80s. They were actually very good, and yet somehow they haven't won since 1969. So 50 years they haven't won at Anfield, but that record's gone now because we played like dog shit, slowly sliding down a wall.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at those statistical anomalies, can't you? They were out of the league for 25 years of those, but when those things happen, you can usually point to, well, that hasn't happened for a long time, so something must have happened for it to be broken in the first place. Like, we're all very much about the records when it's something that favours us, so we can't like just ignore something like that. On the flip side, like when Everton won at Anfield in the COVID season or whatever, when we lost 6 in a row, they hadn't done it for like 20 odd. Well, I mean, like, it kind of does.
But it doesn't. In my head,
It
it
kind of
doesn't
does.
count.
Yeah, it kind of does.
On the records, it does, but there should be an asterisk next to it.
But yeah, that has gone now as well. So, yay. Nothing bites the dust.
Just on Michael Oliver, not blaming him in any way for how shit we were. He was shit as well. And the thing that summed him up was that Yates, in the first half, he's elbowed Robbo in the face. And I actually heard that from where I'm sitting. That was nasty. I heard the impact on Robbo's cheek when he got hit. I was like, oof. He also got Macca in the face twice. And I was watching him after that, and he had a couple of near misses where he's put his hand up trying to block people in the face as they were running past him as well. He also had a foul on Macca where he caught him like really late and he got a telling off. Then he fouled him again. So he's done all of this. He's like 3 times he's hit people in the face. He's committed 2 fouls. And then he gets a yellow card for going to take a free kick. And then another player comes over and goes, no, you go up, I'll take the free kick. Which is totally standard practice. It wasn't even particularly bad time wasting. I don't think he was taking the piss. I just think it was the defender's like, no, I'll take this free kick, you go forward. And he got booked for that. I'm like, you've let him just run around that pitch, just assaulting people for 45 minutes, and then you've got your yellow card out for that, you fucking petty little traffic warden bastard. That's Michael Oliver.
There was another incident as well with him and Trent in the first half where Trent bollocked him for not seeing a handball that went out for a throw-in.
Yeah.
He turned around and screamed at him, and then as he was taking the throw-in, he blew his whistle really loudly when Trent took a couple of steps up the line and forced him back. He's just a fucking pedant, isn't he?
Trent was on his case all day. I don't know. There was stuff going on that we probably aren't aware of because at half time he walked off the pitch having a go at him, and then right at the end, Trent got booked for dissent, didn't he? And while the game was going on, Trent was stood on the touchline arguing with the fourth official over something that like he'd missed, or if something had happened. Yeah, it was the incident when he got booked. I don't know if Trent thought he'd been fouled or if it was his throw-in or whatever, but like he was proper pissed off with Oliver and the fourth official. Now Trent's a bad loser at anything. You know, you only have to watch like the videos the club put out. Trent doesn't like getting beat at anything. He's like the toys come out the pram. So he may not have had a case. He may have just been like, you know, a titty lip because things weren't going well. I don't know. But pretty much the whole game, Trent was like in Oliver's ear. He wasn't happy with stuff that was going on. But which just, you know what? I'm okay with that because he's the vice captain, and like Milner would have been doing that. You know, Henderson and Milner were always like letting the referee know, you know, yeah, we're not just going to fucking accept all this. Nobody else really does it for us. You know, we lost them too, and nobody really says nothing to the refs. And Trent will get away with it because he's English. You know, foreign players do it, they're going to get the card out. Like these referees just won't accept that. But when it's in a high-profile England international, you tend to get away with a bit more.
Yeah. Did you see that thing before we move on to the second half? Did you see that thing in the first half, just before the end, when Alisson was being closed down and he curled that like incredibly beautiful pass up the touchline?
Yeah,
that was like the best thing we did today. It was fucking awesome.
It probably was.
Everybody was purring. It was fucking quality. Just the way it hugged the touchline and just wrapped itself around. Oh, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, it's definitely indicative when the best piece of play comes from a pass from your goalkeeper. But yeah, but as stodgy as we were, there were a ton of situations that looked promising that we have been a lot better at in the first few games.
Well, Diaz hit the post, didn't
he?
Yeah.
Diaz hit the post. That was all through his own industry, winning the ball back and that. And Jota had that chance as well, which I think he should have done better with. So they were like, and then I know
the pass from Maka, by the way, for Jota.
Yeah,
that little ball he put in was just glorious. Yeah, he should have done better with that.
It was a really nice, it was a really good chance. And like just to skip into the second half, we also had that header at the cup end that they cleared off the line as well. So these weren't the Diaz one. I think he was just unlucky because I don't think the goalkeeper had that covered. He wasn't expecting it. That would have gone in if it had just been the other side. So they were like, it's not like, I don't know what the XG was today.
I think they're higher than ours because they had clear chances. Because
that Diaz thing isn't a clear chance and is from a tricky angle. So even though it hit the post, I don't think it'll be a high scoring. It'll be worth like a high value chance.
Ours was 0.87 and Forest was 0.6.
I'm surprised at that.
Just how Nuno drew it up. Literally.
Then again, I suppose their goals are really low percentage shot. Saying that's like every other goal that Hudson-Odoi's ever scored in his life. He just scores the same goal over and over. Not over and over. He doesn't score that many, like 5 a season or whatever, but it's always that exact same goal. And I actually, I was, oh shit, the second it left his boot, I knew that was in because I've seen him do it. He did last season, I think he scored like 2 consecutive games, that exact same goal, just running across and just bending
was it at home?
In the corner.
Was it City ground? I think it was, wasn't it? Because I think I remember.
I think one was home and one was away. It was 2 consecutive games he scored the same goal. But that's like, he's a bit one trick pony. He's a bit harsh because he's a decent player, but that's basically his thing. He'll cut in and he'll bend it in that far corner.
Well, should we jump into the second half then?
Yeah. Well, we already have. We're already well into
it. Yeah.
Do you think Alisson should have done better on that goal? Because I didn't, but I haven't seen the replay of it now. I'm like, maybe.
So
should have seen it coming.
So from where I was, in the Annie Road, opposite the main, next to the, what they call it now, Lower Kenny, Centenary Kemlin, fucking hell. It looked to me like he was unsighted, and until it left Hudson-Odoi's boot, and then he thought that it was going to be going wide, but it didn't. He didn't seem to ever grow. He didn't dive for it. He
He
sort
sort of
of.
kneeled down, didn't he? And just
It's like a. I think this is what happened. I think he saw it late, and then realized too late that it wasn't going to be going wide, that it was curling in, and it was too late. And then that was the reaction. It was like, oh shit,
Yeah,
like
because
that.
I wasn't
That
overly when it left his foot. I wasn't overly worried because Allison didn't look overly worried. I thought that's going wide, and it kind
because
of
he couldn't see it.
yeah, it's right, and it surprised me when it hit the net.
I
So
sit right behind it though, like the angle of it, like I could see it straight away, just from where I'm sitting.
I think it was Virgin Canate. So I don't know which one was which, but one of them was with a Forest player in front of it, and then the other centre half came across, and then the confluence of the two centre halves is when he was able to go, I'm gonna shoot now because you can't see it. So that's how it looked to me. So Allison probably could have done better, but I do think he saw it very late, and
It's
that's why.
a really good goal from their point of view. Like if we'd have scored that goal, we'd be buzzing off it. They worked it
Uh,
really well.
I mean, like, I suppose the only thing I can say is like I can't really fault Nottingham Forest today. Like they played up, they came to play a certain game plan. They executed, they got exactly what they wanted. I don't think I think they did. There was the usual Nuno shithousing, but like again, that's to be expected. It's not. It's part of the game now. You can't really get away from it. So I haven't got any complaints. I don't think they did anything unfairly, or they. It was purely like no, they've done all right. We were dog shit. And in the lead up to the goal, so like they break on us. And Gakpo, I don't know who played the ball across from one touchline to the other, but Gakpo was chasing him, and he was on his heels, and he sort of lifted his arms back, so, not me, and sort of
Yeah,
stepped away from him, so he didn't foul him. And as the ball went across, I thought to myself, what happens if they score there? You're going to really wish you fouled him, and they
yeah.
scored,
Should
and
have
I
fouled
thought,
him.
yeah, you should have fouled him. Just take that yellow. What's the difference at this point?
Yeah,
we've been
Like,
naive on that front for years, though, haven't we?
yeah.
Throughout the Klopp era, we didn't do enough of that. Like that, Man City don't concede that goal because Bernardo Silva just fouls him,
Yeah.
and
Or
then that's
Rodri.
it. Then
Whoever,
yeah, right.
any one of them.
But it's,
Whereas
yeah,
for
not
us, it's
not
like
Haaland. He won't be back that far.
McAllister would do it, and who else? You know,
Diaz probably.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I think McAllister's got like that little bit of cynicism in him where he'd be like, no, you're not going past. I'll take the booking. But yeah, too many of them would do what Gakpo did and like just do everything to not make contact.
So yeah, that's obviously it's not a good goal to concede anyway. But then when you do have the chance to sort of you just bring the player down. I suppose you have to assess it in the moment when you Gakpo and go, how much of a danger is this? But we were being counted on.
Yeah.
This is what they wanted. We weren't set in any sort of position. So if you're gonna do that, that is like a the picture postcard time of when to do it. So
It was Alanga, wasn't
no,
he?
was it Elanga?
I
I mean,
think
he
it
was a
was
speed
Alanga,
merchant.
yeah.
Yeah,
I know he's the one who played the pass across.
yeah.
So I think it was him who got away from Gakpo. If it was, you take him down. You don't let him go.
So yeah, and that was from what, our own corner, wasn't it? Was it
Might
from a
have been.
corner? It
we've
was from
been
our.
knocking
It
it.
was obviously they obviously counted this, so I can't remember if it was a corner
Yeah, but it
previously.
could just have been any attack because we were
Yeah,
the way we were. Like in the second half, we were just wide open for counter attacks. We were probably wide open the whole game, but they just didn't have any players who could counter attack. And then as soon as they brought on like the two wingers, that totally changes everything. But I want to talk about. I know I touched on it earlier, but this isn't hindsight because I said to John at the time, I was like, "What the fuck's that all about?" Was like the Canate sub and that early and going with like the back three. It felt like an absolute panic move to me. What were you thinking when he did that, and then seeing how we lined up afterwards?
Come on, Jules.
yeah. I didn't understand it either. It because I was thinking. So who's playing next to Verge?
No one.
I yeah. That's how it transpired. But I was looking at looking how they were lining up. I was like, well, who's playing next to Verge? And I was thinking, are you going to slot Trent in there and have him
Well,
like sort
Trent
of
went to number 10. That's something else that we need to talk about as well.
yeah?
But let's just deal
So
with this first.
I couldn't work it out. So I thought maybe you'd put Trent in there, but like have him drop back when needed, but really just be roaming forward. But that didn't seem to happen. And then yeah, as you say, it's sort of if you're having the two fullbacks and one centre back, then you're really not going to be allowing your two fullbacks to go forward. And therefore, we had even less width, and we already had very little width anyway. So yeah, it didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
It just also you're taking off someone who can't head the ball. So again, if you get any corners, you're losing
Yeah.
that height and that sort of ability to affect things at corners. Yeah, I don't know whether it was desperation or there was an actual design thought process behind it. I'd like to think so, but if it was, it wasn't clear.
I'm not sure there was much
But
of a
again, all
thought
the subs
process
were
behind
shit.
any of the subs. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, Dave, that Trent dropping in at number 10. I actually thought that we should have done that earlier. We should have. I don't know how Dom managed to play 90 minutes
No.
today. I don't know how he completed that game when we made 5 subs and he was one of the 6 that stayed on the field. But like I would have hooked him, and I would have popped Bradley in at right back, and I would have popped Trent where he was playing. Like that seemed to have made sense to me without unsettling the system a little bit too much. You could have done that, and then we would have benefited from a little bit more width that Bradley could have given us. And I didn't think Bradley was that bad when he came on. I thought he was the best of a bad bunch of,
I thought
of the
he was good,
substitutes.
but I've seen
Yeah.
people saying he was shite along with the other subs. I'm like, I thought
he wasn't.
Considering like what he was having to deal with, he was still getting forward, but it must have been in his head like, oh, can I go or do I need to stay back because there's no Kanate there now, and he's up against Hudson-Odoi, who's like picking the ball up in space and running, and he's having to get back at him, and he did get back at him a couple of times and did really well, and then he got beat for the goal. But I mean, if you're a fullback and you force the winger inside, that's not really on you. What happens after that? You try to do that. You want them rather than get beat on the outside. You sort of force them into traffic. So he's not done anything wrong there. But I just felt like the shape just didn't help anyone because like. Players pick up the ball, so the ball goes into a midfield player, and in his head, he's got like a mental picture of where everyone is going to be because they're drilled to know that. So like you get the ball, I'm going to have Kanate there or Quanta, whoever's playing. I've got my right side centre back, got my left side centre back there. My fullbacks are going to be here. All of a sudden, the ball's coming into like say Gravenberch, and the picture's completely changed. So he doesn't know where those players are going to be anymore. And that causes confusion, and I didn't see any benefit from doing that. And maybe if you've 5 minutes to go or something, you do it just to get the extra forwards on. But there was so much time left, and I felt like by making that change so early to change like the system, like it smacked of desperation, and then that reflects in the performance of the players because the players probably feel like that extra sense of urgency. It's like, oh, right, we're really going to have to go for it. And all we were doing was just giving the ball away and allowing them to counter-attack because we just had no shape. Nobody knew where they were supposed to be. It was just all like desperate and disjointed, and you just knew. The second that they scored, like inside, I knew we were not going to score. You could just tell the way that was going. And then the longer it went, just the more kind of disheartening it was just to see how we were playing and what we looked like, because we looked like absolute dog shit. There was It was so bad, it was so disjointed. People talking about like the subs coming on and doing that, but the subs have come on in a situation where like the team just got like steadily worse, and then you get that tactical change which is just like completely bizarre, and nobody seemed to know what they were doing. And like, so they're getting the ball and then they try to do something, like they try to force a pass, they give it away and everyone's going mad at them. So then they're thinking, okay, look, let's not give it away, let's not panic, let's keep the ball. So they'll put the foot on it and maybe play like backwards or sideways or whatever, and then everyone's fucking screaming, why are you not attacking? And nobody knew what to do, and like all the heads just went, and it was horrible to watch. But again, Like, I kept saying this last season, this team needs to be fucking babied through games. You know, the amount of times they needed to be told at half time what they were doing wrong, this is how you fix it. And again, we're seeing evidence of it now. Like, we saw it at Ipswich. Yeah. You know, they needed to be told, look, this is what you're not doing, this is what you should be doing. Turned it round, second half performance was great. Then you get that today. Whatever they were told at half time, it didn't work. And then they could not come up with any solutions themselves. You know, what was happening last year was Klopp would be making substitutions. I'm saying Klopp, it's also Pep, because he was the one who was in charge of the substitutions. Basically, he'd be saying to Klopp, right, we need to get such and such on in this position. Maybe we go 4-4-2. Klopp said himself like that was Pep's job. Was like the tactical stuff and figuring out substitutions. He gave him responsibility for that. And more often than not, it worked. We were able to turn games around because of the changes that were made, whether it's like personnel or whether it's formation changes, little tweaks here and there. We managed to mostly turn those games around in the second half. But I was saying it last year, I'm still saying it now, I'd like the players to be able to figure it out for themselves, and I just don't think they can. I just feel like they constantly need to have the hands held. And when you've got people like Van Dijk and Salah now, they've got experience, you know, they've won everything. Even Trent and Robbo, you know, there's enough experience in that team. They should be able to figure some things out for themselves, and it just feels like they can't.
Yeah. It just got too panicked towards the end, didn't it?
It was complete panic, it was.
Not good.
Complete lack of composure. Like if a really, really attractive woman starts talking to you and you're not prepared for it, and you're just like, that kind of stuff.
That happened a lot, Jules, does it? Yeah.
I am. Yeah. Do you ever, like, when you don't, like, I say attractive woman, but like if you ever see someone famous and you're not expecting it, like you could be somewhere where you like a gig or something, you like, maybe you think,
have you got a specific example here? Because I think
no,
I'm
not. No, I'm not.
Is this when you met five? Except it was only 2 or 3.
No, it was 3 of them. No, I was just like, I'm just thinking, like, have you never, like, when you don't see even someone you don't really think you're gonna see, and you're like, oh, I'm not sure what to say because, like, I didn't expect to see you.
Yeah,
it's that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just that lack of composure. But like, no, you must have, you must have had it, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're gonna style it out on the pod. But like, when you've been out and about in your youth, and you see an attractive woman, and then she like starts talking to you, you're like, no, I'm not ready for this. I haven't prepared anything. I can't think of anything. You're too attractive.
I've had attractive women react like that when they've met me, but not the other way around.
See, what you've got to be able to do is like to be able to.
Back when I was a footy player at the academy.
Yeah.
Now you see, Julian. Now you see, Julian. Washing a car is very much like making love to a beautiful woman. First, you get it nice and wet. No, I'm not going to go there.
Then you make sure you're inside. Do you know? It's we're bringing all the 90s.
Yeah, right. Because it just feels so much like the fucking 90s, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think a part of that was brought home today for me because I was with my mum today, and my mum doesn't get to come very much anymore, and her birthday's just around the corner. So when I realised that she had the day off today, I was kind of scratching around, trying to find something for her. And a shout out to our boy James. He was able to rustle something up for me. So thanks for that, mate. It was friggin' awesome. Despite the result today, it was just wonderful to be able to go to the game with my mum, and we had a nice day regardless of the match. But like most of the games that I went to with her had that kind of vibe with it. The concentration of the games that we went to were like mid-90s through to dying day Rafa. And then I moved to London, and then I moved to the States, and then we stopped going as much. And then the digital fucking membership card, then NFC came in, and it's really hard to get tickets, A, if you're not like on the membership thing, and B, if you're sitting together is a thing of the past anyway, and she don't like to come when she don't get to sit when she sits by herself. So anyway, long story short, it was very much reminiscent of like that goal going in, the away fans going mad, and just feeling a bit shit, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd left all that behind. Well, we had left all that behind. So many years where you go to Anfield and you knew there's no way we're going to get beat here.
Yeah.
And that's
Even
been like that for the last
scored
7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You almost forget what the sound of that awful sound of the away fans going mad is. We've been so spoiled. But,
Yeah.
Deja vu all over again.
when I'm on the subject of going with my mum, it was just so nice to be able to do that with her today, because like most of my formative experiences going to watch Liverpool were with her, and you know I think it's quite common, not very common really, like a young lad going to the game with his mum and stuff, and we did it for sort of like 10 years, sort of every week really, and we didn't really sort of have a lot of money when I was growing up, and she worked kind of odd jobs and stuff, and it was really easy for us to get tickets at that time because the Shrewsbury Supporters Club, the supporters clubs are really well looked after at a certain point in time, and it was just no problem. We got sent a form every month, and you picked the games you wanted to go to and sent it back with a deposit for the tickets, and sure enough, whenever you wanted to go, you could go. It's just a different time kind of thing, and we started going to like one, like we ticked the box on one of those. We ticked the box on that form for one, and then I'd sort of ask and say, well, can we go to both of these? And she would say, yeah, okay then. And then it eventually got to the point where I would just tick them all, and we'd send it back, and she'd sort of buy the tickets. Like, it wouldn't be my dad that had the actual full-time job that was paying for us to go to the match. It was my mum who did it, and she sort of like worked part-time while raising us, and so most of her money really just tended to go on football tickets for us. And we had some sort of wonderful times together doing it. Like it was our thing that we did together, and it's kind of made me sad that we don't get to do it as much anymore. But also just made me a little bit reflective of the fact that I probably wasn't as grateful as I could have been for that in the moment. Do you know what I mean? You're a kid, and you kind of, this thing happens and you say, oh, thanks, but you don't really understand the work that goes into paying for it so you can, and then I remember we'd be coming back on the bus from these games, like if we'd got beaten, I'd be in a fucking foul mood and I wouldn't even speak like the whole way home, and you know,
you were a moody bastard back in the day.
I'd just be like super fucking grumpy with it. So you know, first of all, she'll be listening tomorrow, so just like thanks mum for putting up with me and for working so hard to make sure we got to go to so many games together. And first of all, and second of all, like my mum was quite poorly about 4 or 5 years ago, and like really poorly. We thought we might lose her, and you know, just this in the last couple of weeks, she's got to walk her granddaughter to school for the first time, and we've got to go to the match together. So although we've had a bad result today, it's been nice for us to be able to do this, and I'll go back to the States next week with a full heart because of those two things, and it just goes to show that there's like a lot more stuff that's important than football. So there's my little soapbox.
Thanks, Arne, for ruining it.
That's why I'm so pissed off with them, because they ruined that for her. They ruined the day for her. But
you can't trust it. We can't even grow here, so
exactly.
Do you reckon the players are like that? Like at half time, they're like, "Why should we listen to it? You can't even grow hair."
I definitely think Darwin does. It's like,
it's not fair on Darwin today, though. He's going to be I just looked on Twitter, Dave, before, and he's catching a bunch of strays. But you know, it is indicative that he's coming on, and there's not really much expectation from most people now. That it does feel a little bit like we're end game with this. But today's not on. No. It's not really on him, is it?
Why would he be getting shit rather than like Gakpo?
Right.
What's the difference? Why is like one getting targeted and not the other? You know, and I'm not having a go at Gakpo. I just think like it's difficult, like when the subs come into that situation and then other change, because it takes a while to get into the game anyway. Subs, how many times have we seen where you make a triple substitution and for 10 minutes we're usually shit while everyone readjusts? It was happening all the time last season. But then another 2 subs get made and there's all sorts of tactical changes going on, positional changes, and everybody was shit. So anyone who's like singling out Darwin after that, you've just got an agenda. It's as simple as that.
You're asking why people single him out, and I'm minded of Red Dwarf when like there's two listers, and they ask him to play a guitar, and one of them's really good, and one of them's really bad, so they shoot the really good one. And he goes, "How did you know?" And he went, "Because that dude could play." And that's like, why are you singling out why are you not singling out Gakpo? Why are you singling out Darwin? It's like, because that dude can play.
I'm not having it. That Gakpo's better than Darwin. I will die on that hill.
R.I.P. Dave.
No, I'm telling you, I'm not having that at all. And I don't want to be like.
I don't think it's fair to single out. I don't think it's fair to single out Nunez today. They were all shit. Everyone was shit. Apart from, as you say, Gravenberg, everyone was shit. He didn't affect the game at all when he came on. But then nor did Gakpo, nor did nothing. So if anyone's, I wouldn't go as far as saying have an agenda. I just think it's an easy target to pick, and that's not very fair. No. That's what I'd say about that today.
And Jules, just to pick you up on that, another '90s reference with that.
We're flying now. Yeah, go on.
I know it might be
fucking Barclays man here.
Don't start with that shit. Don't start with that.
Yeah.
Go on.
Although, yeah, I mean, it could be the fact that was reminiscent of the '90s today, or it could be the fact that we're just old bastards. That all the stuff that we like is from the '90s.
Well, we were young in the '90s. It was our heyday, right? That was
80s for me.
Well, for me, like the '90s were my heyday, so I'm not happy with things coming back from the '90s, including Liverpool being good one week and shit the next, and Oasis reform, and these are not things I'm signing up for at all from the '90s.
Boo with that. All right. Well, anything else we got to talk about today's performance?
We need to talk about Tuesday night, I suppose, don't we? What happens in terms of. It's hard now, though, isn't it? Because, like, usually we'd say, oh, well, I expect that this player will come in, that player will come in, he'll get a rest. Because we knew how Klopp operated, and you'd kind of be able to predict what was likely to happen. We're in total uncharted waters.
Do you think?
Got no idea what will happen.
Do you think he might now mix it up just as because of that performance and go, this is, you've got to travel out to Milan. And then you've got, is it Bournemouth next Saturday?
Yeah.
It's another 3 p.m., 2 back-to-back 3 p.m. kickoffs. What's going on?
Also 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like maybe losing today might prompt some changes. You've got to make changes, right? It's fucking dumb. No one does. It's the modern game. No one doesn't change things from team to team when you've got a squad of our size. What's the point? Is this why we didn't want to sign no one? Because he's like, no, I'm just going to be playing 11 players.
Yeah, well,
generic Dutchman, not on point.
It's not a problem. By the way, I'm not wearing socks.
No,
I don't wear socks.
Yeah,
what happens in winter, Arne, when it's cold? You're not going to wear socks then? What's that about?
Every single photograph I've seen of him,
put some fucking socks on.
His feet must fucking stink.
Right? Am I missing something? Do your feet not get like dead sweaty and like?
If I wear, sometimes when like you've got no socks on, you just throw
the
your
garage.
On,
yeah.
And you come back and like, oh, my trainers fucking stink now. I shouldn't have done that. And your trainers are ruined. He must have to wear like I suppose he's got the money to do it, but like a new pair of shoes every time he goes out.
Are these shoes like dead, like soft leather, like so fancy that like your feet don't stick to them when you pull them out? How many times do you wear trainers with no socks and then you take your foot out and the sole comes out with it because like it's stuck?
And they smell like cat piss.
Yeah, okay, that might just be you, but like
no, it's not. It's not just me.
Have you been drinking cat piss?
No, your sweaty feet smell in trainers.
You think?
It smells like cat piss.
I can't not have socks because I've got like I've never done a proper day's work in my life, so I've got really like soft, nice, supple feet. So if I wear shoes without socks, I'm getting blisters, man. I can't be risking blisters.
What, to go to the garage for some milk or something? I always like the Sopranos when they have Chris's intervention and they beat the shit out of him. They got to take him to the hospital, and the doctor's like, you say he slipped on the counter and hit his head, and he's like spray in France, and she looks at Tony quizzically and he goes, oh, he's wearing socks. That's just like that's such a great little nuanced line. Like, he slipped on the counter, spray in France. Wait, he's wearing socks. And because you sort of like, it's not true, it's bullshit, but you sort of go, yeah, that could happen. You wouldn't get on the counter wearing socks. That's foolish. That you might slip. That totally could happen.
Especially if you're high on heroin.
Yeah.
What were
But
we
I don't
talking
know.
about? Arne,
Making changes.
yeah.
Will sockless Arnie make some changes on Tuesday?
Have to change his shoes, judging by what Dave's just said. Anyway.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Wouldn't be on a fucking plane with him like with them stinky feet.
Right. So this is what I would do. I would put Bradley in for Trent. I'd keep Robbo. I'd keep Konate. I'd keep Verge. I'd leave Soboslai out because I'm sick of his bullshit. He's a very 90s player as well. He's very fair weather.
I've seen it said Jamie Redknapp with pace.
Oh my god.
And I'm actually thinking that's a bit harsh on Jamie. he had some good games for us.
Yeah. I'd probably bring Jones in for him. I wouldn't play Jota. I'd play Darwin. I don't think Chiesa will be on the bench. I don't think he'll go. So I'm not going to say him, but I think he'll end up playing Mo, and I would play Gakpo instead of Diaz. I'd mix it up. I don't see what the point of having a squad this big if you're not going to mix it up. You've got another game in next week. The games are now coming thick and fast because there's a Carabao Cup game to be squeezed in somewhere as well. So that's what I would do.
We'll line up against West Ham in that Carabao Cup game, and the 11 will be the team that we saw today.
It'll be the ghost of Alexis McAllister.
Yeah. Speaking of smells, I just farted. I've been farting throughout this podcast, to be fair.
Yeah,
but
I've heard.
Yes, we know, we've heard them.
I thought I heard you snickering at various points.
I kept my composure. I could hear Jules laughing. I wasn't sure which one of his it was, but I just carried on talking because I'm a pro.
Well, Paul gave me one chip from his chips and curry sauce today because they were so nice, and he wanted me to try one. And it's the one I've just done is a pure, unadulterated match fart, as if I had the whole tray of chips and curry sauce to myself. And it must be some powerful stuff because it came from just that one chip. There was enough venom and power in that one curry sauce chip to
One
produce...
chip is all it takes.
It's the lucky star, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also lucky for the chair.
Yeah, that was the first game that we've lost where the lucky star's been open and I've been at the game. The only we had a few draws when they were closed, and I missed the Palace game. I was sick last year, and I didn't go to the Palace game when we lost. So John pointed that out to me afterwards. He's like, this is the first time like that we've been a lucky star, and we've actually lost when you've been here.
It's almost as if it's totally irrelevant.
We had a good run.
Thanks for nothing, Arne.
Yeah, he's fucking ruined it now.
Yeah, that's worse than the 50-year Forest stat, that.
Do we need to find a new chippy?
No, I
start
can't
a new streak?
I'm not walking any further. It really bums me out when you're like, I'll just get chips in the ground. Like, the chips in the ground are fucking disgusting.
No, they're not. They're nice crispy fries.
Oh, it must be the fucking posh.
Don't talk to me about chip. I'm the fucking chip connoisseur. I'm not taking lectures from anybody on the quality of chips. That's my thing.
Seriously, is it a dry chip as well? I bet you don't have any gravy on or nothing in there.
No, it's fries.
Is it a dry? Right.
So you don't even know what they're like and you're commenting on them?
They're fries.
Yeah, they're nice crispy fries.
Oh, no.
Not like your soggy McDonald's fucking floppy things. Proper crispy, nice, crispy, salty fries.
It must be a posh main stand thing because they ain't like that anymore.
Maybe. It might be. I don't know.
Yeah. Today was almost reminiscent of... Do you know what today was? It was McDonald's Cop sloppy fries.
I remember there's a McDonald's in the Cop. That's so mad.
Yeah, the McCop.
You know.
So Alan Kennedy.
Pure Barclays. Oh God.
Oh man. Did you see that thing this week where Paul was getting upset about somebody referring to Trainioni as our star boy, and
Yeah.
and Kurt replied, he called him Oxton Starboy,
Yeah.
which is like a play on Paul's Twitter moniker, Oxton Soulboy, and that's got that nickname has to stick now. It has to.
God, Starboy is just the worst. It's pure Arsenal, pure understilled Arsenal.
Yeah, I'm willing to accept it now. You should have known we were onto a bad thing today by the meager portion of gravy you got.
Oh,
with your
fucking
chips.
hell, yeah. Do you know what that was though? There was a lad working there and I think like he's just helping out like for Saturday to get a few quid for himself.
Yeah.
And he just gave me this one pathetic little half ladle of gravy on it.
Why didn't you say put more gravy on?
Because me rationale was, well, I normally when I end up throwing the tray out, it's full of gravy anyway. So I'm like, well, I don't eat all the gravy, so it's not really. I'm going to try it like this and see what it's like. And I still had gravy in the bottom when I threw it out, so it was fine. There's no wastage.
Dry chip. I fucking hate
When
dry
I
chips.
when I was waiting outside for you guys, I saw a lad come out and his chips were actually absolutely sodden in gravy. They were
Yeah,
black.
mine were.
Yeah, yours were, Jules, but you got served by like the normal guy.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, but you know, like
I got
when
the
he goes,
YTS lad.
but if there's not enough,
90s.
I usually go, "Can you put more on?" When he goes, "Do you want salt and vinegar?" I always say, "Yeah, put some on." He puts it on. I go, "I'll have a little bit more." If you go, "Can I have some gravy, please?" And he goes, "You put it on." You go, "No, I actually said gravy, not like just wave the spoon in its general direction. Put the gravy on. Get it on there. Fucking get a moist chip. I hate the fucking dry chip. Disgusting business." Absolutely disgusting. Especially fucking dry fries. No.
No, I'm telling you, main stand fries are actually nice.
Well, they should be at the price you pay to sit in the main stand, to be fair.
Yeah, no, that's true.
The
They
most
should be
expensive
free.
place
free.
in the group.
I shouldn't have
Yeah.
to pay extra for fries. They should bring them to me seat.
They
wait
did
to
do that at
service.
one point, didn't they?
I've never seen that. I know you could order food to your seat. I've never ever seen
You know why?
anybody getting
Because
food
no
to
one
the
wants to. Because no one wants to be fucking have the piss ripped out to them when someone comes along and gives them food.
seat. Yeah, I've never seen it. Not one person I've ever seen getting food brought to the seat.
It could be predicated on the fact you need a phone signal, which is,
Yeah,
Although I will say today, the Wi-Fi was working in my seat.
same.
It's
Yeah,
good now.
Yeah. So they've finally caught up with America, like 15 years later, and you get Wi-Fi in your seat in a stadium.
because
The
I couldn't
Wi-Fi.
get the anything at all. No WhatsApp on the 5G. I
Yeah.
messaged my dad at like 3 o'clock to see if the match was working on the laptop for him, and the message never arrived until like 25 past when I decided to try and connect to the Wi-Fi. So I don't know what was going on with the 5G, like. And then there was there was something in the chat where like John had like posted Yates and then a big fucking angry
Oh
face.
yeah.
And Paul goes, "Have they spelt the mosaic wrong?" And John's like, "No, he's just running around hitting our players in the face." That was the only funny thing to happen today, really.
Nice. All right. Well, should we end on that nice humorous note then?
Yeah. So what are we expecting for Tuesday? Are we going to bounce back and get a result, or is it going to be shit?
Shit.
Shit.
I agree. I think like he'll make changes and it'll be shit, and everyone will kick off about the players who come in and say, they're shite. That's why they're not playing. Because they'll come in and it's going to be disjointed because you've got like a lot of changes made. Because I think he probably will make a fair amount of changes.
Yeah.
This is what I refer to as the Harry Wilson defense,
Yeah.
because I made it quite a few times for Harry
Yeah.
Wilson. We're going to rename it the Darwin Núñez defense. Though.
Well, I didn't
Expect
specifically
Darwin's playing
mention
with
Darwin.
scrubs. But yeah, that's what you're thinking. Though, aren't you? He's
The
playing with scrubs. It's not his
implication
fault.
was there. I didn't say it,
Because
but
of
the
the
implication.
implication,
Um,
On that note, though, of the Milan game, there won't be a pod until Wednesday night because you're flying back, Chris, and I'm not around Tuesday night. I won't be back till like Wednesday tea time, so we will do one. But just letting everyone know, it's gonna be a bit late, unless it's shit, and then we may just think, you know what, fuck it, we'll cover it on the Saturday one, the Bournemouth one.
Well, that's a dangerous precedent set, though, isn't it?
Especially because like we may end up being shit quite a lot based on today. No, I'm not looking at it like that. I don't think today means anything like in the big picture. It might do, but I'm not prepared to, to start like panicking over that. It was a bad performance that like we've got to learn from. Slot's got to figure out what are we doing wrong against these low block fucking counter-attacking teams. What's a better, more efficient way to play, and look at himself with the changes he made, and just fucking figure it out.
I think the changes need to be made are play good football.
Yeah,
that would be my top tip.
Don't be fucking panicking and going to a back three with like 20 minutes still to go.
I always think back to a caption in the mag years ago of Les Reed at Charlton. It was Monty's caption, and he was him yelling, "Stop being shit." And that was the caption when he was at Charlton. That's what he should be doing. Stop being shit. Stop being shit.
I was just going to say that.
I don't know, that veered almost into Sean Connery.
It did veer into Sean Connery.
That's the Chicago way.
That's pretty good, actually.
I am pretty good at impressions. I tell you, I've got a pretty good Vito Corleone, but I won't do it on you out of respect for Dan's impression of Vito, air quote, Vito impression.
Do you know when you said that, I wasn't like paying attention, and I thought Vito Spatafora. I thought you would think of it, and I didn't realise.
Tony, it was the heart medication. It fucked with my head. I'm off the Mets now. I'm okay.
He was catching, not pitching.
Tom. All this time, who knew he was talking about when he was greasing the union?
How much more betrayal can I take?
All right.
Okay.
Good stuff. All right. Well, we won't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Difficult day today. The first three we've been really happy with. Today we're fucking really pissed off with. It's probably somewhere in the middle, and it's all going to be a work in progress. We've had a bit of a rant here. We've probably gone a little bit overboard, perhaps. Maybe. But we'll see what's coming in the coming weeks. We've got AC Milan away on Tuesday night. We'll be back Wednesday night, probably with a pod after that. And then another Saturday, 3 o'clock, home to Bournemouth with a chance to get back on track in the league. Thanks for joining us. Until then, we'll catch you soon.